This is Mac OS Ken.
Putting iPhone SE back in play, a government official praises Apple's security stance, and Apple's other soccer season gets a trailer. It is Tuesday, the 28th of February, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Collide. Endpoint security powered by people. Learn more and book a demo today at collide.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Sometimes therapy can feel daunting. Not just finding a therapist, but actually doing the work. Getting to know why we do what we do, and trying to implement change. Learning coping skills, setting boundaries. Can feel like a lot. BetterHelp takes away some of the hard parts and, for me anyway, softens some of the others. First, there's finding a therapist. BetterHelp makes that easier than finding a traditional therapist by a mile. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Since the whole thing happens online, you are not limited to who's around you. And if the therapist you find isn't a match, switching is no trouble and no additional cost. The online part is one of my favorites. My last BetterHelp therapist and I used to message back and forth. She'd check in, I'd check in. Felt less formal than normal. More like somebody on my side. Try it and see. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/macOSKen today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/macOSKen. BetterHelp.com/macOSKen. The fourth generation iPhone SE was thought to be dead. It was thought to be dead thanks to a Medium post dated the 6th of January 2023 offered by TF International analyst Ming-Chi. Just under 2 months ago, young MC said, the supply chain has received instructions from Apple indicating that the production and shipment plans for the 2024 iPhone SE4 have been canceled rather than delayed. This was seen as good news for Qualcomm, from whom we will hear in a moment. First, the fourth generation iPhone SE is thought to be undead. It is thought to be undead thanks to a series of Twitter posts from, this is awkward, TF International analyst Ming-Chi. Update, reads the first of many tweets. Apple has restarted the iPhone SE4 and will adopt an in-house 5G baseband chip. The significant decline in Qualcomm's Apple orders in the foreseeable future is a foregone conclusion. Monday's thread basically has the Cupertino company picking up where it reportedly left off from the Medium post back in January. The fourth-gen iPhone SE will sort of be Apple's baseband test kitchen, leaving Qualcomm's future in future iPhones uncertain. According to Monday's Twitter thread, it's still being determined whether the iPhone 16 series will use Apple's 5G baseband. The main challenge lies in whether Apple can overcome the technical obstacles related to millimeter wave and satellite communications. Nevertheless, once the SE4 starts using Apple's 5G baseband chip, it's a foregone conclusion that Qualcomm's Apple orders will decline significantly in the foreseeable future. But don't just take his word for it. Take Qualcomm's. Apple Insider cites an interview with Qualcomm CEO and President Cristiano Amon at this week's Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. There, he told the Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern that he and his expect that Apple will do their own modem in 2024, but if they need ours, they know where to find us. The move would be good for Apple's bottom line, of course, with Qualcomm chips falling like dominoes in Apple hardware. Assuming the phone thing goes well, Ming-Chi Kuo figures the iPad and Apple Watch, which have lower technical requirements, will soon abandon Qualcomm's baseband chips, too. Don't look for it too soon, though. The analyst lands the 4th Gen SE sometime in the first half of 2024. That adds credence to the timeline laid out by the Qualcomm CEO. This move will benefit Apple's hardware gross margin, according to the TF International analyst, while Qualcomm's Apple business will decline significantly in the next 2 to 3 years. At least equal to the benefit to Apple's bottom line, though, the Apple Insider piece says making its own baseband components should give Apple flexibility. The report says Apple could produce different 5G modem chips for different devices. A chip for an iPhone might focus on voice, for example, while another for iPad could focus on data speed. But would you please go ahead and tell me about the one that's in the headset that I want, please? Actually, let's go back to the recently resurrected iPhone SE4. According to the analyst's latest surveys, the device will feature an OLED display instead of an LCD as the biggest change. Otherwise, he says you're likely looking at a minor modification of the 6.1-inch iPhone 14, which many argue is a minor modification of the 6.1-inch iPhone 13. Which makes me wonder if we eventually get a spring launch for iPhone and a fall launch for iPhone Pro. It would certainly be less confusing. Here's something we haven't heard about in a minute. A problem in Apple's supply chain. 9to5 Max says a fire at a Foxlink facility in India has forced it to stop work in India indefinitely. Foxlink is a Taiwanese company that makes cables for iPhone chargers, according to the report. The factory in India opened in 2020, and it took severe damage in Monday's fire. Part of the building collapsed, according to the piece, destroying about 50% of the company's machinery. Thankfully, there were no casualties. Estimates put the cost of the damage at about $12 million. A surprising question from a cybersecurity official in the U.S. government to some big tech players. Why can't you be more like Apple? A report from CNBC has Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Director Jen Easterly praising the Cupertino company, holding it up as a positive example of accountability and transparency for its security practices. What really turns her on is the rate of MFA, or multi-factor authentication, use among Apple users. According to the report, Easterly pointed to Apple's disclosure that 95% of iCloud users enable multi-factor authentication. With Apple making MFA the default, the director says Apple is taking ownership for the security outcomes of their users. Unlike Mr. Softy and Mr. Musky. By contrast, says CNBC, Easterly said there are low MFA adoption rates at Microsoft and Twitter. She said the roughly 1/4 of Microsoft enterprise customers who use MFA and fewer than 3% of Twitter users who use it is disappointing. Still, even they get props for their transparency around those low numbers. In a speech Monday at Carnegie Mellon University, Easterly said, by providing radical transparency around MFA adoption, these organizations are helping shine a light on the necessity of security by default. More should follow their lead. In fact, every organization should demand transparency regarding the practices and controls adopted by technology providers, and then demand adoption of such practices as basic criteria for acceptability before procurement or use. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Collide, endpoint security powered by people. I was so impressed when I first heard about Collide, how they work to make your workplace safer by getting your workers on board with the whole security thing. Not just telling them what they need to do and not doing it for them, but educating them as to why. No more IT chasing down smartphones and laptops. Collide gets your team bought in on securing your business. Now, if you're an Okta user, Collide can get your entire fleet to 100% compliance the same way. The moment Collide's agent detects a problem, it alerts the user and gives them instructions to fix it. They don't fix the problem within a set time, they're blocked. I know, sounds kind of draconian. Seriously though, unsecured devices are logging into your company's apps because there is nothing to stop them. Collide is the only device trust solution that enforces compliance as a part of authentication, and it is built to work seamlessly with Okta. Collide's method means fewer support tickets, less frustration, and most importantly, 100% fleet compliance. Visit collide.com/macOSKen to learn more and book a demo. That's KOLIDE.com/macOSKen. Collide.com/macOSKen. On the heels of the Wall Street Journal's iPhone passcode theft story, a story that is definitely a people problem. We talked Monday about the Journal story. Across the country, though in small numbers according to Apple, bad actors are watching for the public use of passcodes on iPhones, noting the passcode, stealing the phone, and wreaking havoc. They're using the purloined device to change the owner's Apple ID password, then draining what they can from Apple Pay, accessing other accounts that have passwords stored in iCloud keychain, and basically making the lives of the victims a 21st century hell. Stern argued that there was more Apple could do to protect the victims, to keep them from being nearly as victimized. While Apple may have a bigger part to play, I could not help wondering whether the story illustrated an Apple problem or a people problem. I hate to do this, but what's reportedly happening with AirPods Max in New York City is very much a people problem. Apple Insider cites a report from NY1 that says people are having the premium over-the-ear headphones stolen right off their heads. Since the end of January, the piece says thefts of AirPods Max began in New York City. Thieves have struck at least 21 times, in each case doing so by simply taking the headphones from a victim's head while they're wearing them in day-to-day life. Sorry to do this, but hi, you're in New York City. Probably my favorite city in the world. Certainly my favorite city in the U.S. Not to be trite, but I love New York. And I have never been to a corner of it where I would feel comfortable isolating myself from all surrounding sound, especially with a pair of incredibly recognizable, incredibly luxe headphones. Ask yourself this question. Would you balance $549, regular price of a pair of AirPods Max? Would you balance $549 on your head, put in noise-dampening earplugs, and go for a walk in any of the 5 boroughs? Heck, is there any city in America where you would do that? Not to let the bad guys off the hook. Apple Insider says there have yet to be any arrests over the crime spree. Police have released photographs of the suspects on mopeds and a video to try to get more information. They'd also welcome any clues from the public at 1-800-577-TIPS. If you're a collector of Apple tech, there's an auction about which you may want to know. Apple Insider says Julian's Auctions is handling the sale of the Hans-Peter Luzzi Vintage Apple Archive. Up for bids, a range of over 500 Macs and other Apple products released between 1977 and 2008. Probably the most valuable item on the list is a 1983 Lisa 1 computer. It's expected to go for between $10,000 and $20,000. Everything else seems wildly accessible as these things go. Examples include an Apple II Plus, estimated value $300 to $500, A 2001 iMac G3 Special Blue Dalmatian Edition, estimated value $200 to $300. A 1997 20th Anniversary Macintosh, estimated value $200 to $300. And a 1989 Macintosh Portable, estimated value $300 to $500. Basically, if there is a piece of Apple tech you always wish you'd had, or a piece you had and really miss, might be inexpensively gotten. Then again, it's an auction. Heat of the moment. Bids go higher. You know how it is. The auction is set for Thursday, the 30th of March at Julian's Auctions Gallery in Beverly Hills, California, and online at juliansauctions.com. Know your limit, and happy bidding. And finally today, with just over 2 weeks until its start, Apple TV Plus has released an actual trailer for the third and what is expected to be the final season of Ted Lasso. If you've seen the first 2 seasons, you probably know where we left off. If you have not seen the first 2 seasons, I don't want to read the description to you for 2 reasons. 1, you may not care, and 2, spoilers. The trailer is out now. It looks wonderful and heartbreaking like seasons 1 and 2. Those 2 are, of course, available to stream now on Apple TV+. Season 3 begins on Wednesday, the 15th of March. The trailer is available now on YouTube. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, TMO Managing Editor Jeff Butts and I talk over the iPhone SE Apple 5G modem story, plus a look at the NYC AirPods Max Attacks. That is all today on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Collide, endpoint security powered by people. Learn more and book a demo today at collide.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray. Video to try to get more information. They'd also welcome any clues from the public at 1-800-577-TIPS. If you're a collector of... Yeah.